Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk. You know, my name's Chad. Take a dive world of sports. And welcome to week 12 of the college football action. That's right. We are counting down the days of who's going to make the college football playoff, who's going to be the Final Four, as you see the pool is getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Who's going to rise to the top? We still have 4 undefeated programs. Will that remain the same after this weekend? Does a 2-loss team actually make the playoff? We won't know until the very end, but I'll go over this week's selection and games. I'll cover a lot of deals with conference tie-ins for the conference championship game, so there'll be a lot more to group of 5 members in this week's action to tie in some of those close races. Huge weekend out there in the Pac-12. Go over what I did last week, but before I dive into all of that, if you could, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, especially the content provider. Really pleases you two guys. Really helps pump the channel out. You also subscribe. Love you guys review my work, and I love you all for doing that. Now, me, if you subscribe, and I have a lot of return visitors that don't subscribe either, it doesn't cost you a dime. Helps me provide more time value for you. Now, go over last week. I went 9-3. I actually got back to form. I've been struggling the previous 2 weeks and finally got that good threshold. There's a few games out there that disappointed. That kind of calls for an upset. Didn't happen. But there's 2 other upsets. Yeah, this one's kind of like a showdown Saturday type of scenario. It's just kind of where the top programs are looking to make those statement victories to kind of give them something else on their resume. And most of them are just playing games that just don't really make any sense for them. Some of them that had made sense weeks ago now just all of a sudden just went where to go. And let's just start that off right there with Illinois heading to the Big House to take on Michigan. 2 weeks ago, this looked to be like a huge matchup for both programs as Illinois is riding high, only had 1 loss, leading the top of the Big Ten West. Michigan hot in the heels of Ohio State. Make sure to keep up with them. The Illinois lost 2 in a row. Their season's pretty much going south fast and in a hurry. Their offense just kind of went blint. I mean, Chase Brown's doing all he can for him. He can't seem to find the end zone as a running back. He's only had 7 touchdowns rushing. 7 rushing touchdowns. So once the teams clamp down on the Illini in that front, it pretty much takes away any other aspects of them. Their defense is starting to show holes. They've been coughing up a lot more. They used to be one of the top defenses in the nation. They started to tumble in that aspect. Maybe they peaked too early. Could quite possibly be the fact there. And they're still in the hunt for the Big Ten title game. And it's not going to happen after this game. I think Michigan is going to come out there looking to make a statement. This could be a trap game because after this one's Ohio State. So this could be a trap game. So I think Illinois might surprise them early. But once Michigan, dust himself off and go, all right, let me on the floor, and then just come out and just KO the Illini. Right now, Michigan's favored by 17.5. I doubt it's going to be that much, but I do think it'll probably be at least close to a 14-point victory. Right now, I have no faith in the Illini right now. Their season's going the wrong direction, and this is just going to pile on top of that one and put them further down the tier in the bowl season, but Michigan wins big in the Big House. Then we head out to Waco, where once again, Waco's being home to another key Big 12 matchup. This time TCU comes into town. TCU is looking to remain undefeated. They've already punched their ticket to Arlington. Now it's just for them to maintain them being undefeated to ensure they're in the playoff. Because right now, a lot of experts out there are questioning their position as number 4. They're saying Tennessee should be ahead of them. That's only because Tennessee's SEC school. That's just my opinion. TCU, if they went out, deserves to be in the playoff. Period. Dot. I don't care which conference you play in. They have 0 losses. It's who you play. It's how you play. It's once you win. So if they're undefeated, they should get in. That is just my opinion. I think that's what the committee's going to look at, because look at last year and they brought in Cincinnati. And people were throwing a fit over that one. You're undefeated. Prove it. If it's going to be a blowout, it's going to be a blowout. It happens. Get over it. It's just one of those things. You never know. Look at the beginning of the season, Oregon and Georgia. We thought it would be a good game. What was it? A blowout. But speaking of hyperbole here, but right now TCU is only favored by 2.5. It will be a tight contest. Baylor will not go out without a fight. They'll go down swinging. TCU is just talented enough to be able to withstand a lot of those. It will be a tight matchup, but I will also pick the Horned Frogs to beat the Bears. Then we'll head over to West Lafayette, Indiana, where Purdue Boilermakers are hosting Northwestern. Now, I'm not expecting a lot come from Northwestern in this matchup. Someone said a couple weeks ago that makes a lot of sense. Ever since I left Ireland, it's not the same team. It's like the real Northwestern team stayed in Ireland. That's the only one they have. And this one's not going to be any better. Right now, Purdue's in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West. This will help solidify their position. And it's going to be a bloodbath, I think. Right now, Purdue's favored by 18.5. I really think it's going to be at least a 17-point victory by the Boilermakers. And this is not going to be pretty for Northwestern. Then we head down to H-Town, where Rice will play host to UTSA in a Conference USA showdown. This game right here will determine whether or not UTSA is in the Conference Championship game once again for a second year in a row. And the Roadrunners seem to have replaced a lot of their key pieces that left after last year's miraculous team. Harris right now is over 3,000 yards passing, 22 touchdowns. Running attack is not quite the same as it was last year, but taking on Rice that can put up some numbers, can rival some teams. I do believe Rice will at least put up a fight. It will not be a 13-point victory by the Roadrunners. I think it'll be closer to a 7-point victory. I think Rice will surprise them here and there, but the UTSA will get the win, clinch their spot in the Conference Championship game. Then we have to Morgantown, where K-State will head into the Appalachians to take on the Mountaineers of West Virginia. And this is another one of these games that's going to be very interesting to kind of see how this plays out, because West Virginia, it's not really a slack opponent, even though the record states otherwise. And K-State kind of needs this one to kind of maintain their posturing in the Big 12 race. And it's really hard to determine which one you're going to look at, because you look at the Mountaineers, you have Daniels has over 2,000 yards passing. His favorite target is for Wheaton, who has 7 touchdowns. Half of Daniels' touchdowns go to this guy. K-State is a dual-headed quarterback situation. Vaughn is a 1,000-yard rusher. So right now, K-State's favored by 7.5. I am also going to pick K-State in this one. I think there's going to be too much for the Mountaineers. The Mountaineers should make this close, so I think it's going to be more like a 3 or 4 point victory. But I do see K-State leaving Morgantown with a W. Then we head down to the Sun Belt, where I'm looking at the two teams in the Sun Belt West, South Alabama and Troy, to find out who's going to be one that schools will be facing Coastal Carolina. And we look at South Alabama, they'll take on Southern Miss. And with this one, Bradley is a very competent quarterback, over 2,500 yards passing, almost 20 touchdowns in the air. Most of those touchdowns go to Wayne, who's almost at 700 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. Webb's almost a 1,000-yard rusher with 13 TDs. South Alabama's offense is just chugging along. It's producing what it needs to do. Southern Miss could give them some few stumble blocks here and there. That's what they seem to kind of do lately. They're kind of a mid of the road, but low end of that road type of team right now. I think South Alabama's not going to have any issues. Right now, the Jags are favored by 7.5. I don't see any issues with that one. I think South Alabama will go into Harrisburg and beat the Eagles in their home stadium. And then we head out to Troy, Alabama, where the Trojans will play host to Louisiana Monroe. Since both Troy and South Alabama both 5-1 in conference play, they're looking for someone to stumble, and it might not happen anytime soon. But with Troy, it's all goes through Watson, over 2,100 yards passing, but only has 9 touchdowns. So offensively, Troy is not probably the best option. Monroe has, or Louisiana Monroe, should I say, has a good receiver in Howell, who has 775 yards and 6 touchdowns in the season so far. But I think it's just one of these games. I think Monroe will keep this closer than what Troy will really want. Troy right now is favored by 15. I say Troy gives them Louisiana Monroe gives them some issues. Troy will barely escape with a victory, but I'm still picking Troy. Head back out to the Big Ten, another Big Ten showdown with West Division implications. These are the other two members that are tied for the West Division lead, and that's Iowa and Minnesota in their annual grudge match out there in Minneapolis. And it's just one of these games, I can see this one going either way. It's hard to really kind of look at this because Iowa, of course, has their defense. Their offense kind of showed up recently. Petros was just barely 1,500 yards passing. So, passing yards wise, Iowa is nowhere near where it should be. And then you have Minnesota, who has a phenomenal running back in Ibrahim, who has over 1,200 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns. But I think Iowa will be able to limit his ability to be as effective. Right now, Minnesota's favored by 2.5. I think it's probably because they're home. I'm taking the Hawkeyes. It's just one of these weird teams that can find ways to get those key victories. They're just waiting for the other members of the West to stumble. I don't know if any more will stumble along the way, but I will take the Hawkeyes winning by at least 3. Then we head out to the Mount West Conference and head out to Laramie, Wyoming, as the Wyoming Cowboys play host to Boise State. Now, Boise State, I think they're looking this one to actually clinch the Mountain Division, punch their ticket to the Mountain West Championship game. The only team in their way is Wyoming, who is right behind them, 5-1 in conference play. Wyoming's defense will give them havocs. They have stifled many quality teams in the Mountain West. Look what they did against Air Force, one of the best rushing teams in the nation. Completely took out the rushing attack by the Air Force Falcons. But Green is just a quarterback. I don't think you got to try to corral someone. If you can't get a hold of him, then you got to worry about Holani as the running back, who has 845 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns, while Green has 1,300 yards even and has 7 touchdowns. So the Broncos' offense is not spectacular. Right now, they're favored by 14. It is going to be a lot closer in that one. Wyoming is going to give them a fight. They did struggle last week against Colorado State, so offensive-wise, they're not going to be as much of a threat to Boise State. But their defense will keep this game close, a lot closer than what Boise State wants. And I think Boise State will just barely escape with a 6-point victory. But it's just one of those, which team is going to make the least amount of mistakes, and how much is when going to play a factor in the kicking and passing game. That's why I'm going to go with the Broncos by 6. And then Bedlam down there in Norman, Oklahoma, between the Cowboys and the Sooners. this annual grudge match between the two programs of the state of Oklahoma will probably end up ending soon once the Sooners bail for SEC, which is another reason why I'm not a huge fan of a lot of these huge realignments, because a lot of these big time matchups go away. And that just takes away from the pageantry of college football. Once again, that's just me. It's part of why I do a lot of other little weird videos about realignments, about like, the perfect 10 and, well, they say 10 or 12 members, 14 members, stuff like that. In those scenarios, I've always kept Oklahoma State together because it's Bedlam. You have to keep them together. It's just one of those things. But I get off topic. I do apologize. But it's Oklahoma State. Now they're going down there. They have to rebound. They're struggling right now. They're hitting the wrong time to really hit that struggle bus. I mean, they're back in the top 25 after their victory. And they're right now tied with K-State for number 2 to find out who's going to take on TCU and Arlington. So they need to keep on winning. And what better way to win than against their in-state rival? Now, unfortunately, it is in Norman, Oklahoma, so that gives the Sooners a bit of an advantage. It's a little bit of home court advantage. But Sanders is no slouch for quarterback for the Cowboys, but it's just that running attack by Oklahoma with Gray, who's up over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. It's one of these things that you try to figure out how much of the defense is going to go. I went back and forth in this game. I went more Oklahoma State because I believe in their aspect a little bit better. But now, kind of thinking about it, it's the Sooners. And it's all about the pride. They can get that 6th victory, and what better way to do that than against their in-state rival? So, making a change on the fly, I am going to pick Oklahoma. Oklahoma's favored by 7.5 right now. It's not going to be that. It won't be that. It's definitely going to be like a 3-point victory, because it's just one of these huge matchups between them that it's an in-state rivalry game. I mean, this is like rivalry weekend right now. Between this week and next week, it's just nothing but rivalries. And this is what the best time frame of college football, right around that, the time frame where everyone gets, fat and happy because they're eating turkey. Spend time with family, yelling at the TV. Perfect time frame. But yeah, with this one, I'm looking at Oklahoma to kind of make a statement win. Then you get that 6th win, make a bowl eligible. And the best way to go about that is to beat their in-state rival. So Sooners by 3. They go off to the Pac-12, where there's 2 huge matchups to determine to limit the field. This is the time frame where the Pac-12 will beat each other up. Could take the Pac-12 out of the playoff picture. Because remember, they have no undefeated teams, and only one has one loss. Washington will have an easy game, and for them to kind of maintain their position and try and sneak up there, because remember, they got that tiebreak over Oregon. When the Eugene shocked them. But first, let's deal with USC and UCLA. UCLA got embarrassed by Arizona at home. USC's only loss in conference play right now is to Utah, which UCLA beat. So it's one of those weird things where they'll kind of beat each other up. So it's kind of figure out where to stack these guys up. And this should be a really good matchup with these two. The Battle of LA should really be a huge showdown. It's been a huge showdown for decades. Even there's possibility that this could actually end up not happening because of USC is going to the Big Ten. UCLA is planning on joining them, and they've already been accepted in the Big Ten. However, UC Regents have the trump card, per se, and could block said move, which could come to announce next month. So this rivalry could go away. I doubt it, but there's a slim possibility. But in terms of this one, Chip Kelly's got to come back and figure out, okay, what happened against Arizona? Why did we let the Wildcats come in here and beat us? UCLA has not really been a dominant team. South Alabama gave them issues at the Rose Bowl. So there's something right there, not quite, they're not there yet. They're very, very close. Very close. I mean, right now they're 8-2, so they're going to have a great bowl season. There's no doubt about that one. And they're taking on one of the best quarterbacks in the nation right now, Caleb Williams, who's looking to really pad his stats for a possible Heisman this year. And Raleigh's looking to make a huge impression for Coach of the Year, coming to a new program and taking him to the playoff. I mean, that could look pretty enticing as well. Because right now, USC's in the driver's seat in the Pac-12. A win here more likely punches their ticket to the championship game in Vegas. Right now, they're favored by 2.5. It is going to be a close game. Can UCLA stop the USC's passing attack? And can USC stop UCLA's rushing attack? Kishore Benet has almost 1,200 or over 1,100 yards rushing with 13 touchdowns. So he's going to be a huge factor for the Bruins. If the Trojans can stop him and make them try to beat him in the air, they might have a better shot. But the Bruins can disrupt Caleb Williams. So how can USC utilize his talents to make the Bruins kind of think twice and try to contain him in passing? Because if you do that, he's going to run. He's one of those dual threat running backs or quarterbacks. So if you take away the passing attack, he's going to run, which means now you got to try to stop the run, which lets him do the passing attack. So it's going to be a hard day for UCLA's defense. It will be a very close matchup between the two. I am picking USC to win in a very close matchup. Like I said, USC is favored by 2.5. Yeah, it's going to be one of those 2 3-point victories. And the last one on the docket, we go back out to Eugene, Oregon, and Utah comes into town. Can Oregon avoid losing 2 in a row? That is going to be the what's going to happen. And once again, I was picking one way, and I might go in a different way. And looking at this, I don't see Oregon losing 2 in a row. This is one of these games. I think Oregon's one of these 2 lost teams I think could make a playoff bid as well, much like LSU. So looking at an aspect, they need to get into the conference championship game, even though they might not get the edge, especially since they're trailing Washington. Nixon Rising should be a great quarterback battle between 2 quarterbacks. No one's really thinking about outside the Pac-12. Both of them have a spectacular stats going forward. And it's just which defense is going to step up. Who's going to make the least amount of mistakes? Right now, Utah's favored by 2. The over-under is 60.5. Will this be a shootout between the two? Will it be a defensive showdown? I mean, it's hard to really go. Right now, Nix is really hard to contain because he gets you in the air and on the ground. Rising the exact same way. This will be a battle. I cannot foresee Oregon losing 2 straight home games. I cannot fathom that one. So I will take the Ducks to edge out Utah. And their switch I just made, but it's just, I think this week actually a lot of the matchups, it's going to be great. Like I said, a lot of them are dealing with conference tie-ins, conference championship tie-ins, and this is, like I said, Utah, Oregon, is to find out who's going to keep pace for number 2. Because if you look at this scenario, goes Washington, like I said, USC is the top one right now in the big Pac-12 with UCLA, Washington, Utah, and Oregon all right there. With Utah and Oregon 6-1, UCLA and Washington at 5-2. So it really helps determine the pecking order. But if Oregon get that win, they'll make sure they're right behind USC, possibly give them a nice solid position with one game remaining against their in-state rival, which probably will be one of their downfalls. But more of that next week. But yeah, I have to go with Nix on this one. Like I said, he is trending in the right direction. He is just rising up in the polls. I'm sorry, not to use that pun. Rising is no joke either. So, but Oregon, at least by 3. Well, those are my picks. I don't think I want to limit on some of these. Like I said, these were just contests that were just trying to pinpoint the participants in their conference championship games, which then could help them get selected for the college football playoff, for some more than others. I think it's just more interesting in some of these games. I'm not looking at a lot of the high-profile games. Like, I'm not looking at more like Ohio State and Alabama's games, because they're playing against teams they should win easily. These are just kind of games that are looking at that, trying to help pad their stats, move them up further up the chain. But hey, just let me know down below which game you look forward to this weekend. I think those games out west in the Pac-12 between USC, UCLA, and Utah and Oregon will be huge for that conference. Bedlam should be a fantastic game to kind of watch as well. Let's see which version is going to show up, as well as Iowa, Minnesota will be another classic matchup between those two programs. And maybe even Illinois might make some noise in the big house. Maybe. Let's say, let me know down below. Once you're there, make sure you hit that thumbs up once again. You can share the video with friends and family. It helps propel this channel out. Once you're subscribed, make sure you hit that bell and let you know and turn on the notification. I'll let you know next time I post any more content on my channel. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.